Serious concerns and appeals are the talk of the town as Celtic launch an almighty inquest into the Scottish FA. Welcome back to Fog Football. Brendan Rodgers was fuming yesterday, but he had to save face. He couldn't come out and say, well, you know what, I don't think the decisions were that bad, because at the end of the day, we were pretty pissed, because he comes out and says that all that hell heat is going to be at his back door, and he doesn't want that. So Brendan Rodgers had to save face, and he had to blast the SFA. Was he wrong in saying it? Honestly, it was shocking, but you've got to look at it from all the perspectives of every team in the league. An exact same similar incident happened against St Mirren for Celtic about a month ago, where Joe Hart got studded in the face. There's practically no difference. You could argue that one's worse. You could argue that one's a wee bit nose backed. But the reality is, Brendan Rodgers said then, that was a red. Oh, once you take a stud in the eye, character, Scooby-Doo, all that shite, they have to go off the pitch. What is the difference here? I'll tell you what the difference is. It happened from Yang onto a Hearts player, and Brendan Rodgers has absolutely spat the dummy. But Celtic Football Club have apparently spat the dummy. But when Rangers launched an appeal into what happened in the Old Firm at the New Year, no, just before New Year, sorry, they were all, they're tin pots, get the tin foil helmets out and all that, hats out, all that good stuff. But now when Celtic do it, you're supposed to put the rivalry to one side. But let's be honest, man, it doesn't matter which side appeals. There's always going to be people going, but Rangers fans weren't saying it 2 months ago when they were appealing it. Celtic fans were absolutely going against them, and now it's vice versa. It's exactly like we talked about with the good girl comments that Brendan Rodgers made 8 days ago. One side is just going to completely back the hilt with the other one agenda. But let's see what the appeal has turned round and said. So, of course, the winger was sent off following a review for a high boot on Jambo's defender Alex Cockney. Took a clothesline for hell via a big boot with studs that cracked him right in the dome. And Adam Adea, straight after his penalty, the man that was 100%, that's the reason we brought him in, to finish them into the back of the net, is now sitting with a 66.666, how many sixes you want, percent from the penalty spot. Not so good after all, folks, is it? But it just shows you it's a game of fine margins, because if he puts that in the back of the net, Celtic are probably absolutely, I'll say, in the money. I mean, I think Hearts could have still come back. Man, Hearts are a good team, great players, Lauren Shankland in it. But in a statement, Celtic said, Celtic Football Club can confirm that we will be appealing the red card issue to Yang during the Sunday's match against Hearts at Tynecastle. We've also written to the SFA to raise our serious concerns regarding the use of VAR and the decisions made within the match. As we've said before, for some time Celtic has sought to work with the footballing authorities with the aim of improving standards associated with refereeing and the use of VAR in Scotland, something which is clearly in the wider interest of everyone within the game. End of quote there for Celtic. And you've got to look at this and just think to yourself, we've got to back them. We've got to back Celtic Football Club. Or do we? Because I tell you what, I think all the teams in the league need to unite against this. But what my problem is, how are so many people got an issue with John Beaton? So much emphasis has been put on Beaton. The first guy in Super Scoreboard, John Beaton's been cheating Celtic for years. So the guy said, all the decisions go against Celtic. Then Gordon Duncan shut him down and said, but you just said a decision went for Celtic. You know, they can't make up their mind. But John Beaton, all he did was get Don Robertson, the Don, Tony Soprano, over to the monitor. He didn't tell him to change his mind. VAR just tells him to go over to the monitor. It's not... The problem with VAR is there seems to be this assumption where if you go over to the monitor, you just have to overturn it. Now, there is referees that stick with their decision, but that's the fucking problem. Just because you get... It's almost like it's a given when they get over to the monitor, they're going to go with the decision. It is. You know, obviously with Rangers, they got a penalty. But see, once he went over, even though I clearly could tell it was a penalty, right? It doesn't matter if it was like the softest penalty, or the softest egg imaginable, it's the runniest egg you could get. See, once they go over to the monitor, 99% of the time, they are going to reverse the decision and give it. Whether it be a red, whether it be a penalty, and you can't really get VAR from any of it, or a goal, for example. I guess offside might be different in that regard. That's not really down to the referee. That's more down to lines on the pitch, which is another whole can of worms, because, I mean, let's get on with the lines, folks. Absolute mess. But will Rodgers receive retrospective a ban? Could he potentially get for this? I mean, I'm not too sure. But Rodgers, he's focused so much on the officiating because his team was shite. He's tried to take a bit of the blame off himself. What I liked about Clement after the Rangers game, he didn't come out and bullshit. he just came out and said exactly how it was and how Rangers just simply were not good enough. And I respect that. I hate people making excuses. Clement could have come out and said, oh, well, Casey could have been sent off. I believe it was him who made the tackle. Even though I don't think... Yeah, there's been tackles that's probably been worse than that, and they've only been yellows, but just because they've got previous ones wrong in the past doesn't automatically mean... But that's the problem. There needs to be a precedent set where, right, this is the bar, you can't go over it, end of. But no, you can't give a decision 1 week, then the next week a decision that's actually worse than that, a foul or whatever, and then not give it. It's almost like, oh, we get one wrong here, so it means the next one, even if it is wrong, we have to make sure it goes the other way just to counteract the other one. It's a mess. I think everyone's right to call it out, but it's just funny to see when certain clubs call it out, then it's okay at certain points in time, folks. But will Celtic win this appeal on Yang? I'm not too sure, to be honest. I mean, he's booted him right in the face. It's not... I wouldn't say it's a clear and obvious error. I think once the referee's come over to the monitor and gave this... It's like the Dujon Sterling one against Aberdeen. Rangers tried to win the appeal on that and they didn't. And for me, I think that's less of a red. But the problem is, once it's been given on the field as a red, you just don't really... And he actually stuck with that, by the way. He actually went over to the monitor and stuck with his decision. And once they go to the monitor and actually stick with the decision in the 0.1% category, so to speak, I just don't see it flipping, guys. But we'll have to wait and see. Celtic probably will... not win this appeal, and then Rodgers, could he get a touchline ban or something? Could he be sent to the stands for the next 2 games? I'm not too sure. We'll have to wait and see. But what a crazy weekend, man. And Celtic, we'll have to wait and see. Make sure you vote on the polls and all that good stuff. But until then, peace.